Well, a very good evening to you. I trust you had a lovely day. Welcome to Channel 1 News Hour. Well, we continue keeping tabs on the coronavirus pandemic. This coming as the World Health Organization is warning that the devastation will continue and the war is now within the communities. So let's just take a look at the latest statistics back here in Kenya, even as the globe continues to battle this particular pandemic that has led to the death of at least, we're looking at the death of at least 576,000 people in the globe, and we're talking about infections that range to about 13 million. But what is happening back here in Kenya? We begin with the latest test by the Ministry of Health that is indicating 4,922 people were tested within the last 24 hours, and of this, 497 cases were reported in a single day. This is the highest number that we have seen since we began reporting cases of COVID-19 in the country. And in terms of recovery, we are looking at 71 people have recovered so far within the last 24 hours, and our death toll officially hitting the 200 mark after 5 people succumbed to the virus in the last 24 hours. Let's just have a global view now for the past, since March. We begin with the number of people that have been tested in the country. There it is, 221,164, and of this number who were tested, 10,791 have been confirmed to have the virus in the country. The number of recoveries continuing to rise. We now stand at 3,017, and the number of deaths, 202. Those are the latest figures from the Ministry of Health, obviously painting a very grim picture. It is now our responsibility within the communities to ensure that we focus on prevention. For now, let's take a look at some of the stories that will also be coming up on Channel 1 News Hour in the highlights.
Today, 497 people have tested positive out of a sample of 4,922 samples tested within the last 24 hours.
Kenya records 497 new COVID-19 cases as the government cautions against stigmatizing coronavirus patients. Concern as 41 workers at the Pumwani Maternity Hospital test positive for COVID-19. And it is pain at the pump as fuel prices register substantial rise in latest review by the Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority. Well, Lucy Mwaura is our sign language interpreter, and my name is Catherine Achieng'a. Let's now focus on the day's news, and we begin with the coronavirus daily update by the ministry, where on Tuesday we recorded the highest single-day spike in COVID-19 infections after 497 coronavirus cases were confirmed. Health Chief Administrative Secretary Dr. Mercy Mwangangi says with the numbers set to rise even further, Kenyans must take individual responsibility. The ministry further cautioning against stigmatizing those who have contracted the disease. That story by Nancy Okware starts off our coverage tonight on Channel 1 News Hour.
The country is slowly sliding into the red zone with more coronavirus cases being recorded, despite ongoing efforts aimed at flattening the infection curve. On Tuesday, 497 coronavirus cases were recorded in a single day, just 3 shy of the 500 mark, with the ministry warning that the situation is set to get worse.
These figures will keep rising, something that should worry each and every one of us.
Nairobi County is still an area of concern after it recorded more than half of the new infections, standing at 292. The hotspots within the capital include Westlands, which had 39 new cases, Lang'ata 35, Dagoretti North 34, Starehe 32, while Embakasi East had 30 new cases.
And in the last 3 days alone, Nairobi has registered 518 cases, and this indeed is a worrying trend, and something must be done. It is important that the residents of Nairobi are alert.
Kiambu County recorded 62 cases, Kajiado 51, Machakos 30, while Mombasa had 28 cases. Within that period, 71 more patients were discharged, with the number of fatalities rising by 5.
Total cumulative cases of COVID-19 who have passed through the ICU is 199. Out of this, we have had 90 discharges and 73 deaths. As of today, there are 36 people in ICUs throughout the Republic,
New evidence is emerging from across the world that this disease is actually a systemic disease, a disease that has effects on your heart, a disease that has effects on your kidneys, a disease that has effects when it comes to the clotting of your blood and the coagulation of your blood.
So far, 450 healthcare workers have been infected, with 414 having no any underlying medical conditions.
Only 16 had hypertension, 6 of them had asthma, 3 people reported diabetes, 5 are HIV positive, 1 had hypothyroidism, 1 with cardiomyopathy, and 4 with other cases.
Meanwhile, the ministry is appealing to Kenyans to desist from stigmatizing COVID-19 patients and those who have already recovered.
This is something that does not add value to this fight of COVID-19 and ends up stigmatizing the situation and making it even harder for us to be able to maintain our containment measures, for us to be able to work together, adopting a whole of society approach.
Nancy Okware, Channel 1 News.
And now a health crisis is looming at the Pumwani Maternity Hospital after medical staff at the facility staged their go-slow, protesting alleged lack of personal protective equipment. The development coming as 41 workers at the country's largest maternity hospital, including 19 medical staff, tested positive for COVID-19. Acting Health Director General Dr. Patrick Amoth, who led a delegation from the Ministry of Health to assess the situation at the medical facility, said an isolation center dedicated to the hospital staff had already been set up. Meanwhile, health workers are expressing opposition to the proposed amendments to the Health Laws Amendment Bill 2020, saying the proposed alterations are not in the interest of health workers.
Last Friday, the country received the news of the death of Dr. Doreen Adisa Lugaliki, who succumbed to COVID-19. Dr. Lugaliki, who until her demise served as an obstetrician and gynecologist at the Nairobi South Hospital, became the first health worker in Kenya to succumb to coronavirus, a deadly pandemic that has put millions of health workers at risk as they remain in the front line. Just a few days after the sad episode, another 41 positive cases of COVID-19 have been reported at the Pumwani Maternity Hospital in Nairobi, including 19 medical staff working at the facility. Speaking after he led a delegation from the Ministry of Health to assess the situation, Acting Director General of Health Dr. Patrick Amoth said that the cases were reported after screening samples from 290 staff at the facility in a targeted testing exercise.
Out of the 41, 19 are healthcare workers, frontline healthcare workers, and I think 21 or 22 are support staff, ancillary staff from revenue, kitchen, CSSD, and the like. And all these people are under home-based care isolation. None is under institutional isolation.
Anxiety had gripped the medical facility, with the DG assuring that an isolation center dedicated for the staff had been set up as part of the precautionary measures.
And I've been assured that we have sufficient quantities of PPEs, personal protective equipment. Further, we have agreed that beginning today, we'll have an isolation center dedicated for staff of the hospital at the School of Nursing for those who may not meet the criteria for home-based isolation.
So this to assure the members of public that Pumwani is not closed, because the percentage of those who are positive was very low. But what we have done is we have scaled down the services.
Operations at the facility had been affected after medical staff stayed a go-slow, protesting lack of personal protective equipment in the wake of threats posed by the coronavirus pandemic. Meanwhile, health workers in the country have opposed the proposed amendments to the Health Law Amendment Bill of 2020, which they say seeks to, among others, amend several health regulatory laws.
As we are all aware, the government has continued to mutilate the laws in the labor movement which govern the workers in this country. And as we speak, the government has engaged again in another war with the healthcare workers by proposing very draconian amendments to the laws governing the regulatory bodies for the healthcare workers.
The acts that are proposed for amendment, I will just highlight a few of them. One of it is the clinical Officers and Registration Act, number 20 of 2017, the Nurses Act, Cap 257, the Medical Practitioner and Dentists Act, Cap 253.
They are also opposing a proposal to remove the Director General of Health from the regulatory bodies and have him replaced with the Principal Secretary in the Ministry of Health, terming the move as an attempt to mute the voice of the health professionals in the country.
This shall deny the professional regulatory bodies the benefit of the Director General as the technical advisor in all the regulatory bodies and councils.
For Channel 1 News, I'm Catherine Achieng'a.
And now counties have been warned to brace for challenging times and a heavier burden as cases of COVID-19 in the grassroots continue to surge. Devolution Cabinet Secretary Eugene Wamalwa says the current pandemic will determine if the move to devolve health services was timely. The development coming as county governments continue to engage technical and vocational education training institutions in production of personal protective equipment in the wake of the coronavirus pandemic.
Technical training institutions have proved critical pillars in the fight against COVID-19 disease, coming up with innovations necessary to cushion health workers and the public from the disease. Education Chief Administrative Secretary Zach Kenodia urging county administrations to continue supporting such institutions, restating that they are key to transforming society.
We have technical training institutes, which are government-run, others are run by county, which are making PPEs for exports. You know, you say Rivertex, you could say Kikotech, you could say NYS. All those are TVET institutions, and they have contributed greatly in combating the disease by providing real-time materials that are fighting this.
The call coming as counties were warned to brace for challenging times and heavier burden as cases of COVID-19 in the grassroots continue to surge. Devolution Cabinet Secretary Eugene Wamalwa says the current pandemic will determine if the move to devolve health services was timely.
Utilize that money prudently to build their capacity to improve health services. We're also, through the Ministry of Health, able to release another 3 billion, almost 2.8 billion of which is going directly to the counties. And this should also help the counties.
Meanwhile, a section of COVID-19 patients currently under care at the Migori County COVID-19 Treatment Center in Makalda have decried what they say is mistreatment and poor management of the virus by health officers at the facility. Some of the patients say individuals who have been in care at the treatment center for over 10 days are still confined in the same room with people joining the treatment center for the first time, increasing the chances of cross-infection. Migori County Executive in charge of Health, Dr. Iska Oluoch, is, however, dismissing the claims, insisting that such claims are abstract and wild.
We have a number of selection criteria. Technically, Nyatike or Makalda Sub-County Hospital is the best. Number one, it is vast. It has a wide space, so then it is free for. I mean, it can the possible infection, whatever transmission is reduced. It is vast.
And the Embu Water and Sanitation Company says it has put in place elaborate measures to ensure continued supply of water to area residents during the COVID-19 period.
We decided to have the use of the smart cards when it comes to fueling of our motorcycles and also our motor vehicles. And this is going to help us so much in terms of saving costs.
Beatrice Gatonyingetich, Channel 1 News.
And in a turn of events in Kitui County, an endeavor to oust the governor, Charity Ngilu, from office has suffered a major setback. This is after the sponsor of the motion temporarily withdrew an impeachment motion against the county chief, citing frustrations from members of the county assembly. Just a day before the motion is tabled, the assembly majority leader has disclosed that a number of ward representatives previously behind Ngilu's removal have since grown cold feet.
The much-hyped impeachment motion against Kitui Governor Charity Ngilu, set for Wednesday, has suffered another major setback after some MCAs supporting it appeared to change their stance on the matter. While disclosing that members backing the bid cannot be reached, Kitui County Assembly leader Peter Kilonzo, who also happens to be the mover of the motion, noted that he has suspended the ouster until the members resurface.
Serious consultation that we are going to have an extension of this motion. So it may not take place tomorrow, but and it is not stopped. It is just going to be delayed for a while so that these members can be here.
The majority leader said that the said colleagues could not be reached on phone amid rumors that they were being held in Comunicado at an unknown location to defeat the outcome of the impeachment bid.
There are rumors that these members are not being found in their wards and probably they are locked up somewhere in the national park. We don't know whether it is a kidnap, we don't know whether they are safe. And we decided that a matter of impeaching a governor is a matter of county importance. And every ward has to have its voice or our voice heard in it.
The impeachment bid had previously suffered another drawback after Governor Ngilu obtained conservatory orders from the High Court, halting debate on her planned ouster. Meanwhile, a section of Kitui Young Professionals Forum and teachers' unions in the county expressed their displeasure over the ongoing wrangling between the two arms of the county government.
That both parties must leave their hardline positions immediately and come to the table to negotiate. Let us talk about those differences that both parties feel irreconcilable. Let all concerned walk some distance towards finding a mutual solution for the sake of Kitui County.
The professional spokesperson, Katua Muinde, said the bad blood between Governor Ngilu and the ward representatives was hurting developments and derailing service delivery to the locals.
Hii vita inamaliza maendeleo. Kama wanarika wa Kitui County, tunataka County Assembly na County Government zifanye jukumu lao. Washikane mkono, waanze kutumikia watu wa Kitui County.
For Channel 1 News, I am Emily K. Bade.
Well, it's time for Channel 1 News Hour to take a short break, but we will be back with more news for you, including business and sports.
When the world changed, it made us go back to the simple joys and love the little things even more, like serving up your best, eating together, and sharing more. Now, we'll take nothing for granted and always remember to taste the simple joys. Coca-Cola. Taste the simple joys.
Next on.
Ngoja niulize jamaa, nani hapa hivi amepimwa hivi majuzi?
Pale kwa Mwangi, si ni 10 bob.
Sijasema kupimwa weight. Saa hizi kupimwa HIV ni haraka na ni bure. Nasema.
Mwangalia huyu. Sasa unakuja kuuza nini hapa? Hiyo sura yako mbaya.
Si leo.
Aisha, sema kusha kutoka wewe. Maji na maji ya kutosha leo.
Sijakuja sababu ya maji.
Uko na HIV, si eti ni mwisho.
Wewe uko nayo?
Mimi nilishapima.
Afya bora, maisha bora. Jipime, jiinue.
Je, ungependa kujua jinsi ninavyojizuia kuambukizwa au kuambukizana virusi vya corona? Ni rahisi. Mwanzo, ninaziendesha shughuli zangu zote za kikazi na hata za kibiashara kutoka papa hapa nyumbani kwangu. Baadaye, ninaitunza mwili wangu vyema kwa kuiweka katika hali iliyo sawa kupitia mazoezi ya mara kwa mara na pia lishe bora. Mwishowe, ninaungana na jamii yangu pamoja na marafiki zangu kupitia njia ya simu au mtandao ili kuzuia dhiki na upweke wakati huu mgumu. Kumbuka, haijalishi kama uko na virusi vya korona au la, salia nyumbani, uokoe maisha.
Well, welcome back. You're watching Channel 1 News Hour. In other news, President Uhuru Kenyatta has lauded the progress made in South Sudan's peace process despite the health and economic difficulties posed by the COVID-19 pandemic. While addressing a meeting of IGAD heads of state and government, the head of state said it was encouraging that the permanent ceasefire holds, even as he commended joint response measures adopted by member states for helping slow down the spread of the virus in the region.
Speaking at State House during a virtual meeting of the 36th Assembly of IGAD heads of state and government, President Uhuru Kenyatta congratulated the various parties involved in the South Sudan peace process. The president noted the ceasefire in South Sudan was an important milestone, but cautioned against an increase in communal violence. The president appealed to South Sudanese leaders to work towards strengthening institutions of governance so as to attain sustainable peace and stability in their country.
I wish to note that in the last 5 months, we have indeed witnessed a positive political momentum in the South Sudan peace process. Though significant compromises have been made by the parties, we must admit that a number of important milestones and breakthroughs have indeed been achieved. The establishment of the executive of the new revitalized Transitional Government of National Unity and the agreement on responsibility sharing at the state level, as well as the appointment of state governors, has set the foundation for the transition period.
On COVID-19, President Kenyatta commended joint response measures adopted by IGAD member states for helping slow down the spread of the virus in the region. The president also spoke about Kenya's election to the UN Security Council, saying the country will carry the aspirations of all member states and continue to prioritize regional and African issues during its tenure.
The pandemic continues to ravage our economies and has exacerbated our region's food security situation and has disrupted and slowed down some of the ongoing peace efforts in our region. However, I must take note with satisfaction that early action, including measures to put in place by member states, as well as the adoption of the regional response strategy, as well as assistance from our international partners, has had a positive impact to forestall the rapid spread of COVID-19 in our region.
The summit was convened by the Prime Minister of Sudan, Dr. Abdallah Hamdok, who is also the current chairperson of the IGAD Assembly of Heads of State and Government, to, among other matters, assess the South Sudan peace process and review regional COVID-19 response measures.
And now the National Assembly is finally set to unveil a fresh list of lawmakers seconded to key House leadership committees at a special sitting on Wednesday. The breakthrough comes after the selection committee approved the names of the new membership list in the wake of a deal between the majority and minority sides. The pro-President Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga MPs had previously differed over the composition of the powerful committee slots previously held by members allied to Deputy President William Ruto. Kevin Washira has the report.
Badi Twalib, who is serving his second term as MP for Jomvu, was recently de-whipped from the National Assembly's Budget and Appropriations Committee. His ouster from the privileged position coming following a purge on opposition members who are deemed to have shifted their allegiance to Deputy President William Ruto. And the disciplinary action by the Orange Party did not end there. The party's Mombasa branch chairman, Geoffrey Busaka, confirming that the under-fire lawmaker has been removed from office of chairman at his constituency.
Nataka nieleze kwamba kwa sababu ambacho tuliamua kamati ivunje nyuma ni kwamba kamati yote asilimia 90 ama 95 yote ilikuwa ni kamati ambayo inafanya kazi na mheshimiwa Badi Twalib. Na tangu mheshimiwa Badi Twalib aanze kwenda na mrengo ule wa Tangatanga, wale wanati wa Jomvu ambao walikuwa wanafanya kazi katika komiti wameneglect kazi za chama.
The legislator has been replaced in an acting capacity by Mikindani Ward Member of County Assembly, Remson Juma Thoya. The embattled MP is accused of abandoning party affairs in the constituency. Meanwhile, the National Assembly is set to hold a special sitting on Wednesday to adopt leadership changes instituted in various House committees. Lawmakers that are pro-building bridges initiative, including Kanini Kega of Kieni, William Kamket of Tiati, and Muturi Kigano of Kangema, are said to be installed to leadership positions of some of the most powerful committees previously led by pro-William Ruto's MPs. Kevin Washira, Channel 1 News.
And now the 357 million shilling graft case against Nairobi Governor Mike Mbuvi Sonko and 16 others will proceed after the prosecution's appeal for 2 more days to complete investigations was dismissed. Chief Magistrate Douglas Ogoti ruled that the prosecution had already taken long to bring the matter to court and set the mentioning of the case on August 20th and the pre-trial on the 26th of August. Sarafina Robi with the details.
The Office of the Director of Public Prosecution suffered a blow on Tuesday after a Nairobi Anti-Corruption Court dismissed their application for 2 more days to complete graft investigations against Nairobi Governor Mike Mbuvi Sonko and 16 others who are facing 19 charges of corruption, abuse of office and irregular payments that saw the county government lose 357 million shillings. Appearing before Chief Magistrate Douglas Ogoti at the Milimani Law Courts, the Defense Counsel argued that the prosecution's request for more time will cause unnecessary delays and subject the accused to an injustice.
The accused person here was charged December last year. This is 7 months later. This is surely contrary to the constitutional rights of the first accused, and they should not be allowed to now proceed the way they want to proceed today.
I also want to state, Your Honor, contrary to what is being stated by the defense, that the prosecution is delaying this matter. The prosecution has been eager and is always complying with this court's orders, because we are eager to move to the hearing of this case.
The Chief Magistrate ruled in the defense favor.
The application filed by the DPP on 24th June 2020, though not decided upon in any form, is overtaken by events and is considered as spent. Pursuant to today's proceedings, the matter to proceed under the court's directions.
The prosecution sought a stay of the order pending an intended application for revision by the prosecution of appeal at the High Court. The court further took issues with the ordering of the documents from prosecution, ordering them to paginate them and share them with the concerned parties within 4 weeks, with the pre-trial hearing set for the 26th of August to verify the documents. Due to the COVID-19 novel that continues to disrupt services across the globe, forcing the judiciary to scale down activities, the case is now set for mention on the 20th of August virtually. Reporting for Channel 1 News from the Milimani Law Courts, I'm Serafina Roby.
Now, children and staff at the Motherly Care Children's Home in Ruai had a reason to smile today, thanks to the generosity of the Nairobi Central SDA Church that saw them receive food donations and personal protective equipment worth 250,000 Kenya shillings. Yusuf Farah has the details.
Songs of gratitude rent the air at the Motherly Care Children's Home as the young ones appreciated the gesture from the Nairobi Central SDA Church at a time that the COVID-19 pandemic is ravaging the economy and worsening the plight of the vulnerable in the society. They received foodstuff and personal protective equipment worth 250,000 shillings from the Nairobi Central SDA Church in partnership with the Kenya Broadcasting Corporation.
Children's home. And it's a sacrifice from members because we appeal to members and they give their donations. Not that the church has money, but actually you're appealing to members every Sabbath, every Saturday for them to give money. So I want to say that everyone in this experience can participate in touching somebody's life. Not much, 100 shillings, 1,000 shillings, when it comes together, it's a blessing to somebody.
Motherly care, as the name goes, motherly care is the best thing you can do to any human beings. And given that these children are orphans, once they get this motherly care, they will be able to live their potential to the fullest and therefore become responsible citizens, not only for this country, but for the entire world.
A founder of the home said such gestures from well-wishers strengthen their resolve to serve the vulnerable in their society despite the challenges they face.
Nawaangalia nyinyi, tunashukuru kwa mfano mzuri huo ambao mmefanya wa kuletea watoto chakula. Manake saa ingine wanaweza wakafikiria wamesahulika na ulimwengu ule wa nje, lakini tunaona kuwa bado mnakumbuka hata wale ambao hawana baba na hawana mama.
During such difficult and trying times of the coronavirus pandemic, it is such kind gestures that give not only these children's home but others across the country a message of hope for better days to come. Yusuf Farah, Channel 1 News, Nairobi.
And now the coronavirus pandemic continues to devastate the globe months after the first case was recorded in Wuhan, China. In Kisii County, where just a few COVID-19 cases have been reported, nutrition therapy has been adopted by many as they seek to boost their immune system and ward off a virus that is indiscriminately sweeping through the world with devastating consequences.
COVID-19 continues to tear into communities, with Kenya having already recorded 10,791 cases by close of the day Tuesday. Almost all counties in the country have recorded positive cases of the virus, with Nairobi having recorded the highest number of infections, followed by Mombasa County. Months after Kenya reported her first case, Kisii County has recorded 5 cases of COVID-19, with 4 already recovered.
All their contacts, the 150 contacts, have also been tested and they are all negative. I urge all the Kisiis of goodwill and the residents of Kisii County to ensure there is absolutely no stigmatization of any of those 5 individuals who may have contracted this disease, because they are now well and they are back in society.
Residents here attribute the low numbers of infection to good nutrition. With Kisii County well endowed with plenty of nutritious foods, residents say they have taken advantage of the situation to boost their immunity.
Nauza pilipili hoho, ndania, nyanya, greens like skuma, spinach. Najua pilipili hoho inasaidia kwa mwili, kwa kama wenye au mama wazee inawasaidia sana kukaa na nguvu, na greens inasaidia kwa mwili kwa magonjwa tofauti.
Hii brokoli kwanza ni mboga, la pili kwa sababu tunaiuza, kuna watu wako na pressure, sukari, hiyo kichanganya na hii ambayo inaitwa cauliflower, kiweka tangawizi, kuna turmeric, kuna cucumber iko huko hiyo ya green, kuna celery. Hivi viungo yote kiweka pamoja, hata mwenye yako na ulcers, mwenye yako na asthma, hivi vitu inasaidia sana.
Those with pre-existing conditions have also a variety of foods to choose from that help them to better fight any opportunistic infections. Abagusi Culture and Development Council Secretary General Bosire Angwenyi says such respiratory diseases are not new in the community's traditional setup. At a time conventional medicine was almost unheard of, the community knew that failure to eat enough and nutritious foods was a sure way of coating infections.
Njia ambao walikuwa wanamtafutia chakula mbalimbali ya kukula,
alafu aongeze nguvu mwilini. Tulikuwa na mboga ya kienyeji ambayo ilikuwa inapatia mtu nguvu sana. Hasa ile inaitwa chinsaga, Peter herbs. Na kuna ingine inaitwa hii managu. Kuna ingine inaitwa emboga. Hiyo ni jina la Kiswahili lakini inaitwa emboga. Mama akichuna mboga anaongeza hiyo kidogo kidogo, alafu endera maiko kidogo, anaongeza mtu anakula anapata nguvu.
Viral diseases including measles and pneumonia existed, with patients displaying general body weaknesses, lack of appetite and breathing difficulties, but were treated rather easily. Dr. Richard Onkware, who is also the County Director of Public Health, says there's need for Kenyans to eat healthy to boost their immunity as one way of cushioning themselves from COVID-19.
Disease does not cause very severe disease in most people. It depends on your immunity. If your immunity is good, you will tend to have the mild or asymptomatic forms of the disease. And you will find that the people who proceed to severe illnesses are people who are over 65 years, people who have other comorbidities, medical conditions like diabetes.
Residents say the solution to most diseases lie in proper nutrition, further noting that researchers can engage as some traditional community experts with a view of coming up with a remedy for COVID-19 and related illnesses. Caroline Kamau reporting for Channel 1 News.
Quite an informative piece there by Caroline Kamau. Let's now take a look at the global statistics, where the WHO has issued a warning that the coronavirus pandemic could get far worse if countries around the world do not follow basic healthcare precautions. The caution coming as a number of countries reimpose restrictions as coronavirus cases surge yet again. So far, over 13 million people around the world have been diagnosed with COVID-19, with at least 576,000 fatalities recorded since the pandemic was first reported.
World Health Organization Director General Tedros Adhanom says there is a likelihood of the coronavirus getting worse if the set guidelines are not adhered to. While acknowledging that the world was caught unprepared by the virus, the WHO head says strong institutions in the respective countries can reduce further effects of the pandemic. According to Tedros, reducing mortality and suppressing transmission are crucial in curbing the deadly virus. The WHO expressed fears amid reintroduction of COVID-19 restrictions by a number of countries. Cities and states on several continents have been forced to reimpose restrictions as cases surge again. The United States has been grappling with the worst coronavirus outbreak in the world, with Florida shattering the national record for a state's largest single-day increase in new confirmed cases. Meanwhile, the British government is expected to announce that people will have to wear masks when they go into a shop from July 24th. Masks have been required on public transport since June 15. This comes as French President Emmanuel Macron also said that he favors making face masks mandatory in public indoor spaces to curtail the coronavirus pandemic, possibly starting on August 1st. In the meantime, the United Nations has warned the pandemic may push another 132 million people into chronic hunger by end of the year. In its latest report, the UN called on governments to adopt a set of policy tools to help people afford quality, nutritious food. And Spain's Catalonia has approved a resolution to place its residents of the city of Lleida and 7 nearby towns under home confinement to stem a surge in coronavirus infections after a judge earlier ruled that such a measure was unlawful. Africa's coronavirus caseload has climbed above 600,000 as the pandemic on the 54-nation continent continues to pick up speed. South Africa has the most cases on the continent, with more than 287,000. Globally, more than 576,000 have died from COVID-19. United States, Brazil, the United Kingdom, Mexico, and Italy have recorded the most deaths. For Channel 1 News, I am Emily K. Badi.
And now Nyanza Regional Commissioner James Kianda has read the Riot Act to members of the provincial administration who fail to address the challenge of early pregnancies in their areas of jurisdiction. Kianda says his office is already analyzing statistics on areas hard hit by the vice, warning of possible disciplinary action against officers whose regions will be found to have the highest number of cases. Details of this and other highlights in the County News Roundup.
Cases of teenage pregnancies have been on the rise in the country, with the obtaining situation blamed on the long holidays occasioned by the closure of learning institutions as a result of the coronavirus pandemic. Nyanza Regional Commissioner James Kianda now warning members of the provincial administration who failed to stem the vice in their areas of jurisdiction of dire consequences.
Naibu wa chifu itakuwa kwamba ni lazima kwako kuwe ndio kunatoka watoto wenye mimba kubwa, bas wewe utoshi kuwa kazi. Tusiharibiane wakati.
Kianda saying that it was the responsibility of the chiefs and their assistants to organize public meetings and sensitize the citizens to ensure that the children remain safe at their homes during the COVID-19 period.
Wacha watoto wakae nyumbani. Wacha msichana mama ukae na yeye. Akitaka kwenda soko, wewe mzee wa mtaa umwambie enda soko na mama yako. Enda na ndugu yako mkubwa. Kama chifu huwezi ukaongea haya, unatosha kuwa kwa hii kazi. Hata kama msemi hapana kwa sababu ni ndugu zenu, hatoshi kuwa kwa hii kazi.
Meanwhile, traders who used to operate the Moriro market in Nairobi's Kariakor area want the national and county governments to consider them when allocating the newly constructed stalls. The traders claim that persons who are not operating at the new market before it was refurbished are the ones who have benefited from the new stalls.
Ilipogawanywa saa hii juzi, tulianza kuona hatuko majina yetu haiko kwa hiyo list. Na tena inagawiwa kila mtu kwa hii Kenya mzima, kila mtu wako na hiyo application form. Sasa tunashindwa sisi wenye tulipigiwa soko yetu, tutaenda wapi? Tutaenda wapi? Na sisi ndio tulipigiwa, tukapeana hiyo nafasi ya soko mpya kujengwa.
Elsewhere, residents of Kahawa Sukari in Ruiru, Kiambu County are alleging a scheme by a private developer to grab a piece of land set aside for public parking. The developer is reported to have started fencing the plot and started excavation works with the intention of putting up a high-rise building in the area.
Ningependa kukashifu na niseme kwamba lazima hii shamba ilindwe na hatutakubali kwamba iweze kuchukuliwa na watu binafsi.
And a section of political leaders have condemned the ongoing state evictions targeting individuals residing in gazetted forest land. While castigating the forceful removal of families in most areas of Nakuru County, Bomet Governor Hilary Barchok lamented what he termed as an insensitive and inhuman manner in which the exercise has been carried out, especially during the coronavirus pandemic. The county chief now wants the government to stop the evictions, even as local leaders claim that the majority of those affected have been subjected to untold suffering.
The people who are suffering the most are actually women and the children, which is quite unfair at this particular time tukiwa tunapambana na ugonjwa wa corona. I think it is humane on our side kama serikali tukifurusha watu when we are fighting corona. It is not fair at this time to remove people is being a bit insensitive.
In the meantime, 20 people from Samburu County are said to benefit from a chicken rearing program as part of efforts aimed at cushioning vulnerable communities from the adverse effects of the coronavirus pandemic. The program by a local community-based organization dubbed Nest will enable beneficiaries cater for their families' needs from the proceeds.
Tulifikiria kuwapea kuku juu one ni easy kwao to take care of these chickens. Kuku hawana gharama nyingi, watapea tu chakula, watakula chakula within.
Elsewhere, a section of leaders drawn from the Mount Kenya region have rallied behind the formula proposed by the Commission of Revenue Allocation to be used in the sharing of county revenues. Even as the counties remain cash-strapped due to impasse at the Senate, Limuru Member of Parliament Peter Mwadhi says the distribution of funds on the basis of population as opposed to the landmass remains the best way to ensure fair development in the country.
I've always advocated for one item, that is that resources follow population, because population is the one that pays for taxation, and therefore all the monies that are going to be allocated at the national level must put at the highest percentage the issue of consideration of population. And that means even though we may not have to add the number of MPs, but the allocation per constituency should always follow the population that is there. And that is why we want not only the allocation of county revenue, even the allocation of CDF money to follow the population, because we are higher population than most other constituencies where they require development.
Finally, the Board of Management at Digikirani Primary in Marikunge Ward, Kisauni constituency, wants the county government of Mombasa to finalize the construction of an ECD project that had commenced in 2015. The group claims that the county administration had promised to finish the project within 2 years, but the project remains incomplete.
Na hili jengo sahihi limeleta changamoto nyingi kwa sababu milango iko wazi, haikufungwa, madirisha yako wazi, ni watoto wamekuwa ni kama wamepata lodging zao za kuweza kufanya mapenzi ndani ya hili jengo. Kwa hivyo mimi kama mzazi wa hapa Digirikani ninasikia uchungu kwa sababu watoto wenyewe wamekosa mahali kwa kusoma.
Yusuf Farah, Channel 1 News.
Well, you're watching Channel 1 Newshour. It's time for us to take a break, but when we come back, we have business news, and I have details of why you are likely to be digging deeper into your pocket. Of course, this coming after the Energy Regulatory Authority released the latest fuel prices, so it's likely that the cost of goods and services could go up. But that story is coming up after this break.
Jiamini na ujikubali kuwa wewe kibinafsi. Ikiwezekana, cheza kama wewe, kwa sababu wengine wote wameshachukuliwa. Aliyesalia ni wewe mwenyewe, na kando yako hakuna mwingine. Inakufaa kucheza ngoma kiwewe, kana kwamba
Kupata ujiamini, bonyeza star 811 star 817 hash. Bonyeza star 811 star 817 hash.
Welcome. Embakasi Utawala tuko locked. Ungem Utanyahururu Kasuku Massive. Jesi ya Nyeri Coast Maua na Kura kwa locked mbaya. Kigumo Ward na ambao wote wako ndani ya KBC Channel 1.
Akulaliki Wednesday bila the ref.
Mbotela Auta Idara Kitengela.
Kiambu County 33 Pipeline Meru anawakilisha.
Rongai Maboxa pale go down. Karatina Auta Mlolongo wana enjoy show. Lare Sub County Auta Githurai 45. Lanet Barracks tuko ndani yake. Okongo Auta Carnation Maragwa Seti
Nairobi.
Thika wako locked mbaya sana.
Watu wangu wa Nakuru Ngwaro.
Auta Gilgil live kutoka Mazeras Bahati Massive. Embo Thika Massive. Siaya Shikambi Kakamega Bungoma County.
Kusia Boda
Kisumu City.
Malindi yote iko ndani ya the ref.
When I'm in Kenya, I tune in to the rave. Get your mind brave, focus, conscious.
Kenya,
East Africa.
Right.
Keep it locked.
On the next episode,
He made me feel so silly. How dare he say to me that I'll end up as a typical housewife? Is he crazy or what?
Why can't she see that with that guy, she's destined to go downhill? And I will bet you on this.
I'm about to fire anybody just to please your racist prejudices.
The other day I saw Roxana kissing another guy at the front door of a restaurant.
Come on. Say something to me. Come on.
I'm going to find out whether she's traveling on business or with that guy.
Let's go.
I said no and I'm staying here. I'm not interested.
All right, fine then.
El paraíso
In love with Ramon.
Very well, let's now do business. And the cost of goods and services is likely to go up in the next 1 month following an upward adjustment of fuel. The most affected in the new prices published Tuesday by the Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority are petrol and diesel prices. Super petrol prices jumped by a 10-point high of 11 shillings and 38 cents per litre, while diesel goes up by 17 shillings and 30 cents a litre. Kerosene users will pay 2 shillings and 98 cents more for the commodity in the next 1 month.
According to the price schedule released by EPRA, pump prices for Nairobi will now be 100.48 cents, while diesel will cost 91.87 cents. Kerosene will retail at 65.45 bob. Mombasa residents will enjoy the lowest pump prices at 98.11 for petrol, while diesel will cost 89.50 per litre. Kerosene users will pay 63.09 for the commodity, according to the new prices announced today. EPRA says the adjusted prices have been occasioned by the rise in average landed cost of imported super petrol, which increased by 12.64% from $248.21 a barrel in May to $279.58 per cubic meter in June 2020. Diesel has also increased by 32.16% from $228.62 a barrel to $302.15. The prices are inclusive of the revised rates for Petroleum Development Levy on super petrol and diesel and 8% VAT in line with the provisions of the Finance Act and the Tax Laws Amendment Act of 2020. EPRA Director General Pavel Oimele said in a statement published Tuesday. The new prices are expected to make life more expensive for Kenyans already feeling the impact of reduced economic activity on account of COVID-19 pandemic. There has been reduced demand for oil products in the country since March this year, when the government imposed travel restrictions and dusk to dawn curfew to stop the spread of the deadly virus. Data from EPRA indicates that in May, there was a 65% drop in fuel sales on reduced demand from the transport sector, industrial and agricultural activities occasioned by the coronavirus pandemic. In Kenya, kerosene usage is widespread in rural areas where Ministry of Energy estimates that almost 7% of Kenyan households rely on kerosene for lighting and cooking.
Indeed, brace for tough times ahead. Now, the Kenya Agriculture and Livestock Research Organization has licensed Kevian Limited to commercialize 5 of its high-yielding potato seed varieties in a long-term contract. KALRO's Director General, Eliud Kerenga, says the partnership aims to benefit 50,000 farmers in potato-growing regions and help meet the current demand of the high-quality potato crop in the country.
Many multinational fast food stores in the country have been forced to import their potato stock as local potato breeds do not meet the required standards. This, according to KALRO, is due to recycling of poor quality potato seeds by farmers, despite local breeders creating hybrid seeds. To this end, KALRO has licensed Kevian Limited to commercialize 5 of its hybrid potato seeds. The 15 years partnership will see Kevian pay KALRO royalties at a rate of 2.5% of their total annual sales.
We have licensed them for 15 years, renewable. And after they start the production, they'll give back to KALRO 2.5% of annual gross sales. And that will go back into supporting research in the potato sector.
To improve potato value chain, Kevian will distribute the improved potato seeds to farmers in potato growing regions and later on purchase the harvest from the same farmers for processing.
But we offer a market so that they don't feel that they do not have a market to sell their produce. Should they find a market outside, fine, it's an open market. We will pay the best possible price available in the market.
The government has been encouraged to come up with more public-private partnerships to link breeders with farmers to improve agricultural output in the country.
Identify, build capacity, work hand in hand with the public sector, making sure that the varieties that they have are making it to the small-scale farmers, into the hands of the small-scale farmers.
Do whatever it takes to make sure that the technologies developed in these important institutions get to the end users.
The government has been urged to step up its effort in enforcing the 50 kg potato packaging laws to protect farmers from exploitation and also reduce potato post-harvest losses due to proper handling of the harvest. Benson Rioba reporting for Channel 1 Business.
Let's now do some sports. And the Chicago Marathon, which was to be held on the 11th of October, is the latest race to be cancelled due to the coronavirus pandemic. Organizers announced that registered runners for 2020 race will be offered either a refund for their race entry or will be able to defer their place and entry fee to the Chicago Marathon in 2021, 2022 or 2023. Chicago was the last of the American races in the six-city World Marathon Major Series to go public with its plans. The Boston Marathon was initially postponed from April to September before it was cancelled. Of the other races in the major series, only the London Marathon, which was postponed from April to October, still has a chance of happening. The Tokyo Marathon went off in February with an elite-only field, and the Berlin Marathon, originally scheduled for September, was cancelled in June. And now Kenya has been awarded hosting rights for this year's African Junior and Youth Weightlifting Championships. The competition will be held from the 7th to 11th of December here in the capital, Nairobi.
Kenya may host this year's African Junior and Youth Weightlifting Championships, a competition scheduled for Nairobi between December 7th and 11th, with lifters due to battle for continental bragging rights. At least 12 countries are expected to compete in Nairobi, including the hosts Egypt, Tunisia, Morocco, Nigeria, Ghana, Mauritius, and Madagascar. 10 weight classes for men and 10 for women will be on the program. Egypt topped the medal on home soil last year, winning 11 golds in Cairo. Meanwhile, Harambee Stars head coach Francis Kimanzi has revealed how demanding it has always been to select the best players to the national team for international assignments. Kimanzi disclosed how his technical team has been putting a lot into preparation due this time of the pandemic. Kimanzi, however, noted that foreign-based players don't necessarily have an edge over their local-based counterparts when the technical bench sits down to select players.
I can welcome an opinion, but I will make the final decision, even from my support team. And I've had the experience working with different club owners, directors, but I try to be myself. I try to make my final decision because the philosophy is always my weapon. Whatever I want to put on the ground must be supported by what I'm selecting.
Harambee Stars was scheduled to face Comoros in April in a two-legged Africa Cup of Nations qualifier before the pandemic struck. Stars had held Egypt to a 1-1 draw in the first leg before playing out a 1-1 draw against Togo at home. The final tournament has since been postponed to January 2022. Also lined up are the 2022 World Cup qualifiers, where Kenya has been pitted against Mali, Rwanda and Uganda.
Now, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer admitted Manchester United didn't deserve to win after Southampton grabbed a last-minute equaliser to draw 2-2 at Old Trafford. United missed the chance to move third in the Premier League, as the results left them in fifth place with 1 point separating themselves. Chelsea and Leicester in the race for 2 positions in the next season's Champions League. United have failed to win 2 Premier League games at Old Trafford thanks to a goal conceded in the 90th minute this season, yet in their previous 5-19 Premier League home games prior to their term, they had only drawn 1 game courtesy of a 90th minute strike. And now leaders Real Madrid moved to within 1 win of the La Liga title after surviving a scare against Granada. France defender Fernand Mendy opened the scoring with a ferocious finish from a tight angle before countryman Karim Benzema doubled the lead. Gareth Bale was once again an unused substitute as Real scored twice in first half minutes before the hosts hit back. Wales forward Bale, who has been at Real since 2013, has started just 12 La Liga matches this season. He has not played since being substituted in the 2-0 win over Mallorca on the 24th of June. Very well, that's it from the Channel 1 News team tonight. As always, thank you, Kenya, for watching. My name is Catherine Achieng'a. Our sign language interpreter this evening is Lucy Mwaura. It's now time for us to take a look at the weather report. And Irene Muchuma Odim tells me that the temperatures are dropping. It will be very cold tomorrow. Let's just get the accurate data from her in the weather report. From me and the entire team, do have yourself a good night and God bless.
Good evening and a very warm welcome to Channel 1 Weather Updates. My name is Irene Mchuma Odim. We are looking towards a cloudy Wednesday in Machakos, Voi and Makindu. Strong southerly winds of 12.5 meters per second will be experienced in the southeastern lowlands, northeastern parts of the country and coastal strip, and that will be in the afternoon. But before we get to that, how is it tonight? Most parts of the country are covered with scattered clouds, save for the Lake Basin region and western parts of the country, where there are wet conditions over few places. In the capital, we'll wake up to a cool, cloudy and sunny day. Equally in Meru and Nyeri, there will be sunny conditions in Lamu and Malindi. There will be wet conditions in Mombasa. The northern parts of the country will experience sunny conditions. For you in the southeastern lowlands, as much as it will be cloudy, expect sunny intervals to prevail. At the Lake Basin region and western parts of the country, it will be sunny. In the afternoon, though, we are expecting changes to come in over the western parts of the country. These are showers accompanied by thunderstorms, and most areas will be affected, though a totally different scenario will continue over the northeastern parts of the country and the coastal strip. But then for you in Meru and Nyeri, expect showers over a few places in the afternoon. It will be sunny in the capital during the afternoon hours. Temperatures in the capital will range between 21 degrees Celsius and 13 degrees Celsius. The highest temperatures across the country will be experienced in Mandera at 36 degrees Celsius. This in mind that during the month of July, temperatures are expected to go as low as 18 degrees Celsius in the day. Let's now cross the borders and see how it will be in other parts of the world. Do have a good night and see you tomorrow, God willing.
Dear viewers, fellow Kenyans, I'm Reverend Marshall Okal of ACK St. Stephen's Cathedral, happy to share with you the Word of God from the book of Nehemiah 12, verse 27 to 43, and also 2 Chronicles, verse 20 and 15, chapter 20, verse 15, which says, "The war belongs to the Lord. And when success is on our side, let us give thanks." We are in a period of war against the pandemic by the name of coronavirus. I thank the Lord for the far He has taken us as Kenyans, to know that there is still war on our side. And the war against this pandemic belongs to God. Just as King Jehoshaphat was informed together with his fellow Israelites in the book of Chronicles, chapter 20. 2 Chronicles, chapter 20, verse 15, when they were being threatened by invasion by their enemies. And you find that they took the war to the Lord. It's a time that I would like us Kenyans to continue to take the war to the Lord our God, because He is the source of strength. He is the source of our encouragement. He is the source of our healing. And Lord, who can never fail, has seen many Kenyans